Welcome. It is Sunday morning, man. I love getting up with you guys every Sunday. Get your coffee, get your water, get your gin, whatever you need to get through the day. Bloody Marys, mimosa, I don't know what you're drinking, whatever you are. Join us. So great to have you. I'm really excited that this is the first time we actually got permission from Substack. You have to ask to broadcast live on Substack from the studio. So we're going to have some folks joining us from Substack. Hopefully, I don't know if they'll make the comments, but we're going to have a whole new bunch of folks join us. I'm so excited to be able to add our Substack audience. We've got our users. I see Vern. I see the gang all there. It's so good to see you guys. Welcome. What a crazy week. I say that every week, but it's always a crazy week. And we've got an incredible show, you guys. Rosa Brooks, Howard Dean, for God's sake. Christine Medrano is coming in from freaking LA. We've got Rina Shah in D.C. This is going to be one of the greatest. I'm so freaking excited. But, you know, as always, we got to start off talking about the news. So we start on the down note. We always have to start off that way. So let's get on to the news. Well, it is, as always, you know, they always save the fun stuff for Friday in the Trump administration, as you know. And so it appears that on a late Friday night, Trump he invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Yes, 1798, an act that's only been invoked 3 times previously: Civil War, World War I, and World War II. If you remember, you probably remember the Alien Enemies Act is the law that FDR used to deport and jail and put in essentially concentration camps Japanese Americans. So that's what Trump is doing. Now, who is he doing it for? A Venezuelan gang named, I'm going to get this wrong, Tren de Aragua. Everybody calls it T-A-R, whatever. This is the gang. Christine's laughing. I can see Christine laughing. You know, this gang, so for history's sake, I'm not even going to read the script. This is the gang that during the campaign, if you remember correctly, they claimed was taking over Aurora, Colorado. You guys remember that bit? So the whole thing was that this Venezuelan gang had taken over an entire apartment complex, which then grew to all of Aurora, Colorado, in spite of the fact the mayor and everybody that lives there saying, we don't have a Venezuelan gang taking over the town. But that's what it was. So what he did was he invoked this act very quietly on Friday night. How did people find out he invoked the act originally? Immigration lawyers noticed their clients were suddenly disappearing out of the country, being deported without the due process they'd been expecting. They immediately filed, the ACLU filed a lawsuit. A federal judge officially they announced they had invoked this act Saturday morning. Within 2 hours, a federal judge, James Boasberg, said he issued an order immediately. He said the government was already flying migrants out of the country. He claimed on this new deportable act, he wanted them returned. He literally said he ordered flights to return to the United States that had Venezuelan deportees on it under this act, and anyone else was supposed to be held for at least 2 weeks. This is he really unusual thing for a judge to do. In his statement, he said, I do not believe I can wait any longer. I'm required to act, he said, Saturday evening in a hearing. Was a lawsuit brought by ACLU and Democracy Forward. You know, we've had Democracy Forward on the show before. They've been suing Trump since day one. A brief delay in the removal does not cause the government any harm, he added, knowing they remain in government custody. But he did order any planes that are in the air to turn around and come back, which is pretty amazing. As it turns out, Trump issued this proclamation that, again, they call it TDA, is the gang. TDA is easier for the most white guy on earth to pronounce. Over the years, Venezuelan national authorities have ceded over greater control of their territories to this transnational criminalization. Trump said it's resulted in a hybrid criminal state. What it does is a lot of horrible things. As you know, with a lot of these laws, they open layers and layers of very dangerous things that for Trump to be able to use to deport just about anyone. As you may remember, we've talked about it before, and I didn't include the story this week, but you may have heard if we watched some of our other shows that they essentially closed the big detainee camp in Gitmo because, frankly, there wasn't enough detainees. You know, they had originally said the worst gang member Venezuelans there, and lawyer after lawyer came forward saying that their clients had nothing to do with it. They were deporting anyone who was Venezuelan, accusing them of being members of TDA and deporting them. So it's a very dangerous, slippery slope that Trump continues to use as an excuse to deport just about anybody. So it's all BS. But I really want to think as we get away from the story, I want you to put it in perspective. They're basically taking what was a right-wing propaganda lie that this gang, TDA, had taken over a major swath of a Colorado town, which grew into a campaign talking point and a continuous right-wing propaganda talking point to the point where the President of the United States invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 against this gang, saying they're taking over parts of America, and they're not. I mean, so it's really a slippery, dangerous slope, and there's more of that coming. In the next story, over the weekend, Trump ordered attacks on militant sites in Yemen. They actually carried out large-scale military strikes on Saturday against dozens of targets in Yemen, controlled by the Iranian-backed Houthi militia. It was opening salvo in what senior American officials said was a new offensive against the militants and a strong message to Iran. It involved air and naval strikes from carriers in the Red Sea. If you're not familiar, the Houthis have been after October 7th and after Israel invaded Gaza, the Houthis had stepped up their attacks on shipping and U.S. naval assets in the Red Sea off the coast of Yemen to the point where 100 attacks. Now, it wasn't ignored by the Biden administration. They were doing strikes. As a matter of fact, the British, always our friends in the British, always the UK, had actually done coalition strikes with us against sites. This one is a little bit more aggressive, I suppose you could say. They planned a large-scale offensive for several weeks, they said, as long as it takes. They did immediately bomb areas of the capital of North Yemen, supposedly targeting senior Houthi officials and that. Of course, as you know, usually we're probably going to hurt civilians too. But what the interesting part about this too is and show that picture, JJ. This is what the White House put out as the strikes were announced, and here is President Donald Trump in his wartime mode of showing. Look, this is a picture they put out. That's the official White House. But you can blow that one up too, JJ. That's the official photo from the White House. Notice they made it black and white, and to show Trump in charge, and they're all zoomed up close pictures they put out because it's Mar-a-Lago. If you look really close in that picture, he's wearing a MAGA hat, of course, with his autograph on it. He's wearing a hat that he autographed himself, okay? This is there. And I was mocking them because, like, they made it black and white because, war, right? I mean, everybody knows war is black and white. World War II in Korea and World War, it was all black. I mean, these clowns, this propaganda at the White House. So basically they're doing exactly what Biden had been doing, but a little bit more, but now he's a wartime president. I suppose they were looking for a wag the dog moment to make us all rally around the flag, but unfortunately I'm going to hard pass on that. That's the wartime President Trump taking a break from golfing to come back. And someone pointed out, by the way, if you look at the original photo, his man boobs were bigger, and they actually they photoshopped the shirt. It just perfect. Next story, and this is where it gets really kind of weird too. Over the weekend, Trump signed an order. Well, here's where it's really fucked up, you guys. Let's be honest. Within hours of the continuing resolution passing the Senate, which, as you may remember, 9 senators led by Chuck Schumer voted for the CR to pass. Within hours, Donald Trump signed orders reducing the function of several agencies that a minimum required by law. He basically zeroed them out. This includes the U.S. Agency of Global Media, which of course is the home of Voice of America, Radio Free Europe and Asia, and Radio Marti, which being Spanish language news, into Cuba. They actually sent notices out laying off all the employees temporarily. So they've now shut down Voice of America, which we've had before the Cold War, to tell the American story all over the world. On Saturday, of course, Carrie Lake, if you remember, the failed Senate and gubernatorial candidate, runs that agency. She posted on X for employees to check their email because that's how they were getting fired. She just sent an email out to everybody. In addition to the Agency for Global Media, Trump's order targets, and this is where it gets ugly, you guys, the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, which mediates contract negotiations, helps with strikes, those things, they were zeroed out. The Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, that's a think tank and scholarship program that actually helps us think about foreign policy. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, because God forbid we should have museums and libraries. The U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, which for me is very personal. The Interagency Council on Homelessness is the organization that coordinates between the federal branches to assist in reducing homelessness. For me, in my previous life as a veterans advocate, we worked with the Interagency. They were very important to the work that we did in veterans homelessness. That's how they coordinated. So housing and urban development, HHS, the health programs, VA. The way we address homelessness for everyone in America is a multi-agency process. This council is how they coordinated, and they zeroed it out and fired all the employees. The Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, that's the folks that helped community banks and community investment. And then finally, of course, the Minority Business Development Agency. They cut the organization that was helping minority businesses develop and do well. If you don't get it now, I don't know what to tell you anymore. But these are organizations that were zeroed out in the CR. their money was zeroed out. So they're following the law. In this case, since there's no money, Trump could say, well, since there's no money, we can all they have to do is the minimum, which is exist on paper. And that was authorized in the CR that Democrats voted for. And finally, here's a story that I wanted to get to that is really important, and it will segue into our next conversation. Now, this is a story reported on VoteVets this week, and it's a little bit shocking to me. So it first got reported by Task and Purpose, which is a terrific small organization, a website that tracks military and veterans affairs. Task and Purpose noticed that Arlington Cemetery had been deleting and erasing parts of their website associated with minority and women notable graves buried in Arlington. As you know, Arlington Cemetery is hundreds of acres in Virginia with over 400,000 graves of U.S. service members dating back to the Civil War. It includes 2 presidents and 400 Medal of Honor recipients as well. Arlington is a venerated, hallowed ground. Every spring, hundreds of thousands of kids visit from their field trips. Every kid who goes to Washington, D.C. for a field trip stops by Arlington. I stop by Arlington. I have friends buried in Arlington. You know, we even have actual Iraqis buried in Arlington because when a plane crashes and we get what we call mixed remains, for example, the bodies are unidentifiable, they'll bury them in a group grave. There's actually a group grave in Section 60 of Arlington Cemetery that includes 5 Iraqi pilots, Iraqi service members. That's how venerable and venerated Arlington is. So in recent weeks, the cemetery's public website has been scrubbed of dozens of pages on grave sites and education materials that include histories of prominent Black, Hispanic, and female service members buried in the cemetery. This includes educational material. This is all spotted by an attorney, a historian who follows it very closely. And gone from view or public views lists dozens of no graves. Now, here's where it gets really ugly, and we discovered this today on the internet. I'm not sure who the original source was. My friend Brandon Friedman had tweeted this out. Let's show that picture. So one of the most notable ones is there's a guy named Major General Charles Calvin Rogers. General Rogers is the highest ranking Black military member to ever receive the Medal of Honor. Now, if you Google his name, Calvin C. Rogers, Medal of Honor, this will come up. And then in the Google search, you can make it bigger if you'd like to, JJ. The Google search page or any search page will show there's a link to a DoD website. And this is about, used to call Medal of Honor, thanks, brother, Medal of Honor Monday. And they would highlight a Medal of Honor recipient. So Calvin Rogers was featured at Medal of Honor Monday. When you click on that, you get a 404 error. And you can see the page is gone, 404 page not found. But here's where it gets really effed up, you guys. When you click, if you look at the URL on that page right there, it might be hard to see. What it says now amongst the code is DEI Medal of Honor. That's the one you can blow up, JJ. It took an hour ago. DEI Medal of Honor. Now let's talk about General Rogers and what he did. He was Lieutenant Colonel commanding the 1st Battalion of the 5th Artillery in the 1st Infantry Division along the Cambodian border in 1968. On Halloween night, 1968, he saw there was major North Vietnamese action on the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Cambodia. Now, the rules of engagement at the time, he wasn't allowed to fire his artillery into Cambodia, but he prepared his troops. So he immediately went to action, organizing his fire base. These are fire bases. They weren't necessarily as hardened as other bases, but he started moving his howitzers around, placing his soldiers in fighting positions. And sure enough, within hours, they were attacked by a huge North Vietnamese assault. That assault actually breached the perimeter. Charles Rogers, then Lieutenant Colonel, frantically worked all the positions, running under fire from position to position, moving guns. He even took up a part of a fire team with soldiers when they were depleted too much by injuries. He was shot. He was injured not once, not twice, but 3 times that night. The final injury was so bad, he was stretchered back to the headquarters, and he kept commanding his troops to stop the attack and saved his unit before being evacuated. He was awarded the Medal of Honor, not recently, but by none other than Richard Nixon, Republican president, on May 14th, 1970. Okay? The Vietnam War was still going then. That's who Major General Rogers was. Now, Major General Rogers went on to serve an incredible career, again, becoming a Major General, which is no small feat for anyone. Now, the thing about Major General Rogers, he talked a lot about how hard his early days in the service were because of the racism. Keep in mind, 1968, that was only 4 years after they'd outlawed actual segregation. In 1949 was they desegregated the military. Racism was huge in the military, and he talked about that a lot. That, I guess, offended Pete Hegseth and the Trump administration to call a Medal of Honor recipient a DEI Medal of Honor. The rage I feel is hard to believe, you guys. I mean, it is unbelievable that this is how this administration treats true war. And this is what's infuriating about it, is Hegseth talks all the fucking time about the warrior mentality and the warrior ethos, and they call the man injured 3 times in combat who received the highest award possible, and then went on to serve as a major general, a DEI medal. That is too fucking far. And I got the perfect guest to talk about these changes, as always. And so I'm thrilled to go on to our first guest. She is Rosa Brooks. She's a law professor, journalist, author, commentator. Rosa's got one of those bios that has like several pages, unlike mine. Important to note, she's the Scott Ginsburg Professor of Law and Policy at Georgetown University's Law Center. Her storied career, by the way, you guys, includes stints at DOD, at the Secretary of State's office, and human rights and labor coverage. She's written extensively about the military. Let's welcome Rosa Brooks to the show.
It's great to be here.
Oh, Rose, it's great to have you. I'm thrilled to finally hang out with you on the show. We've hung out in D.C. a couple of times, I think. Good to have you, man. I guess we'll start with that last story. Good to see you. That last story, this DEI obsession, right?
It's so weird. It's like some kind of spell it casts over them, and they all go nuts every time they hear the phrase.
And it's insanity. And it's, you've served in DOD. You served in policy positions at DOD. I mean, this doesn't help recruiting. Can you imagine? It's like, how many service members are we going to lose because of this, right?
One of the things that just baffles me most. Would you ever have imagined that the Republican Party would be essentially at war with the military of the United States and would become convinced that the U.S. military was this kind of bastion of wokeness, which sure doesn't sound like the military I've known or the Pentagon as I remember it.
No, not at all. And it's the obsession instead of actual war fighting, the inception of actual policy. And again, you serve in a policy position. I mean, who's doing the policy now? They've erased women. They closed the office.
We're not actually doing any foreign policy or any defense policy anymore. I mean, that's the irony of this, right? That the fixation on rooting this sort of witch hunt to root out DEI is coming at the expense of any actual readiness or any actual preparation for defense challenges the United States actually faces. And as you've said, like, this extends to removing people from websites. Like, this should be our priority right now. It's so bananas. And as you also said, it's devastating. There are so many people in our military, so many people of color, so many women who have been working heroically over many, many years, a whole lot more than Pete Hegseth. And not everybody who serves, it's great, but watching this guy go after these men and women in the military who have given their lives to this as if they're just nothing is pretty morally disgusting.
Now, you've got a piece of it at Georgetown Law. I know that acting interim DC attorney Ed Martin sent a note said they're going to blacklist your graduates because there's allegedly DEI curriculum. I loved seeing. I mean, he's effing with Jesuits, and for those. And for those who didn't grow up Catholic like I did and didn't grow up in St. Louis, Missouri, where the Jesuits are pretty powerful, I would not mess with Jesuits. They're not that's not the soft branch of the Catholic, right?
Well, and once again, yet another irony, of course. How many Georgetown law students are going to want to go work for Interim Martin?
There's that.
Who's a Looney Tunes. The only ones who might want to go work for him are the people who agree with him. The only people he's hurting are students who he should presumably want to be helping, which is, another example. I think that this is really not about what they say it's about. This is just about giving people and institutions a hard time because it's fun.
Yeah. because they can, especially ones they don't like. Now
Yeah.
you got a special shout out from Pete Hegseth themselves. As a matter of fact, when you when you like many of us criticized the idea that what we covered it quite a bit when they fired CQ Brown and Admiral
Mhm.
Franchetti, but buried in there, of course, at that Friday night 7 p.m. press release was the firing of all three of the Judge Advocate General leaders of the military services, and we all criticized that. He got kind of mad about that, and now I don't know if you saw, but he's hired Tim Parlator, a private attorney, gave
Did.
him a
I see
commission,
that.
and they're going to talk about. So I don't know if you saw the story. They're talking about remaking the JAG Corps. I mean, it's shocking. What's your take on that?
No, I mean, as I said then, as many other people said, you get rid of the lawyers because you know you're about to do something that they're going to tell you not to do because it's illegal, right? That's why that's the one and only reason that you get rid of all the top lawyers in the
Yeah,
services. The one and only reason that you bring in your personal guy, give
yeah,
him
a guy who defended war criminals, by the way, which
a
is
guy who
great.
defended war criminals, right? And as you know better than I, the U.S. military has worked incredibly hard over decades to really integrate compliance with the law of armed conflict
Yep,
into its operations.
yep,
Why? Because we're nice, well, partly, right? But also partly because this is a part of being effective in wartime. You know that whether or not the enemy you're fighting is reciprocating, whether or not they're respecting the laws of war, you need to get the population on your side. And if you're
correct.
torturing people, if you're murdering people, that's not going to be very effective. I mean, leaving aside the morality, which I don't think we should
Right,
leave aside, but even if you do leave that aside, I mean, that's something we learned the hard way in war after war. And what Pete Hegseth is now doing is he's trying to strip that protection away, and it's something that has actually served our national security interests.
yeah,
But he also forgets that, as you know, JAGs don't tell commanders you can't do that. They give them advice. They
right,
say, if you do that, here are the legal considerations, and here's the jeopardy you might be putting yourself in, et cetera. Then there are people who talk about the policy considerations and so on. The idea that JAGs stop people from doing military necessary thing, that's always, that decision making always rests with the chain of command, not with the lawyers. So he's also
right.
it's just dumb.
Right. Well, they've been mad ever since the prosecutions of those war criminals from Afghanistan, including Parlator's own. I'm not going to name the guys. Parlator's own clients. So they've had a war on JAGs forever.
Yeah.
Hegseth wrote a book about
Yeah.
it, but it is scary. I mean, if you're trying to get rid of the lawyers, it means you want to open the gateways to really bad things, probably,
Well,
and
I mean,
that's
lawyers can be
scary.
annoying. I would be the first to admit we can occasionally be
What
they're
lawyers are annoying?
they're annoying for a really good reason. I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
That's the point of lawyers, to say, whoa,
Right.
slow down just a second, think about this for a minute. And it doesn't, the design of the military command structure, it doesn't get in the way of making rapid decisions because the commander always can make the call. But it creates an opportunity to have a little bit more information. And sometimes that information is, you might want to rethink this if you don't want to end up in prison someday. And
Yeah.
I
And
think
and
commanders
yeah. I
actually
mean,
know that.
that's it. And I was a public affairs officer, Rosa. I think you may recall. And I told in a separate broadcast we did about this that we were the bad. Our job, me and the JAG are always best friends, right? Because we're the bad news guys, right? I literally remember
Right.
walking into. I remember
Right.
walking into General. Oh my gosh, our commanding general at the time, and we walked into his office, and he would just go, "Fuck," I was like, if the lawyer and the
Yeah,
public
people
affairs
look at me
guy,
like that sometimes too, Fred.
yeah, Marty Dempsey. Right? Marty Dempsey. By the way, Marty Dempsey, a proud Irishman. So happy St. Patrick's Day, Marty Dempsey, wherever you are. Marty sang some wonderful Irish dirges, and but
Every
Marty,
time you walk in,
Marty.
people sing dirges. That's
Oh yeah, he would.
great.
Rose. It's like he knew. He was like, okay, what happened? You're like, all right, sir, let's explain. This is a bad idea. And I would say, here's what the press is going to say, and he would say, here's what the lawyers are going to say, and that was important, and to gut that. But you're absolutely right. Now, on top of that, Trump signed yet another executive order targeting yet another law firm that's opposed in the past. It's kind of chilling to me. I mean, what does that mean for the viewers? We love to kind of explain things to people. So when the president of the United States is signing executive orders with stripping clearances and stuff of actual private firms, I mean, this is unheard of, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. No, it's It's bonkers. He's targeting entire firms because, in some cases, a lawyer who no longer works for them and hasn't worked for them in years did something that
Jesus.
pissed him off years ago. It's even if it was justified in a particular case, and there's no reason to believe it is, it's overbroad with regard to the entire firm. And it's not just stripping the security clearances. It's also in these most recent orders denying the attorneys access to federal buildings.
Jesus.
It is saying that they're going to take away contracts from anybody who does business with those law firms. I mean, it's unbelievable. And here's the thing, right? If the government does something bad to you, I think this is really fundamentally an assault on individual liberty, right? If the government does something
That's
bad,
it.
whatever the bad thing is, they
Right.
charge you too much in taxes and whatever, and then they try to make you pay. They try to arrest you for no good reason. You're going to need a lawyer. And if no one will want to represent you because every lawyer thinks, oh, if I do anything that the government disagrees with, my life is going to be ruined. They're going to come after me. They're going to take away my business. They're going to destroy my reputation. You're not going to be able to get a lawyer. And this is one of those classic things where, first they came for the whoever's, right? But any individual who thinks, oh, who cares? It's just a bunch of fancy lawyers. What do I care what
Right.
happens? It doesn't stop there. We've already seen it. It continues. It will continue, and it will mean that people who desperately need lawyers are not going to be able to get lawyers. And sooner or later, I think the American people are going to deeply regret that.
Yeah, I agree, and it is to intimidate. It is to strike fear. As me, as if you followed me for a while, I was sued by Mike Flynn
Yeah.
for $150 million. He threatened.
Congratulations.
He was going to get. I think if in the end he would have got my coffee mug collection. It's the only asset I have at this point. My used car, my coffee mugs. Like I really love my coffee mugs, but
Good
he
to be
sure as hell wasn't.
judgment-proof.
Sure as shit wasn't getting $150 million from my ass. And he dropped that case. But they talk about lawfare, but this is truly lawfare, isn't it? I mean, this is the definition of lawfare.
Well, and
Isn't it?
they don't draw a distinction. That for some years the right has used the term lawfare as if there's something wrong with going
Right.
to challenge something that you think is illegal. That is, again, that's sort of core to what it means to be American. It's core to what it means to have checks and balances. It's core to what it
Yeah.
means to live in a country that has the rule of law. Is that we say, if the government does something wrong or illegal, yes, we have judicial review. We have independent courts, and they're supposed to take a look at that and tell you whether it's illegal or not. And you go after that, you've just gone after everything.
I guess my last question, as always, we took up so much time. The courts we're winning in court, right? I mean, we are. I mean, they are getting kind of right. You did that. I don't know the answer. It's like, but what does that mean, right? Because
Right.
the marshals work for him, right? I mean, it is.
Right.
Does winning in court matter? I mean, I don't want to bring all my followers down. Sorry, guys, but I mean, are we winning anything, Rosa?
I
you know?
mean, I mean, yes, but people should be aware of the limits of
Yeah.
litigation, right? That in a sense, you think of, well, what makes our constitutional system work? What makes a democracy work? It's sort of magic, It's kind of like if you believe in fairies, they exist, and you stop believing, Tinkerbell's going to die. Democracy is kind of like Tinkerbell, and I'm going to regret saying that. I know it.
Oh, we're clipping that too.
But it works if the courts don't have armies. They don't have armies who work for them. As you said, there are federal marshals who can enforce what federal courts say, but the federal marshals report to the Justice Department, who work ultimately for Pam Bondi, who works for President Trump. If the President of the United States won't abide by court orders, that really is the end of democracy. But we don't have to let him do that because the American people do have something to say about that. And by the American people, I don't just mean, whatever people in all across the country. I also mean the judges, the lawyers, the people who work for the courts, the marshals, all of us, right?
Yeah.
We all always have a choice. Are we
Yeah.
going to be part of this project called Democracy and the Rule of Law, called the United States of America, with judicial review and independent judiciary and checks and balances? Or do we not care about that? Because if none of us care about that, then, you get the government you deserve in a democracy. We won't have any rights left. We won't have any individual liberties left. But I think when a court says to President Trump, hey, turn that plane around, you can't do that. And the President Trump goes, screw you. That's really, really scary. That doesn't mean yet it's all over. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens with appeals. We're going to see what happens in terms of remedies in the court. But, I certainly hope for everybody who's listening to you, tell all your friends, tell all your friends, including the people who support President Trump. This is not about left or right. This is not about politics. This is not about partisanship. This is about, like, do you believe in the fundamental project of the United States of America or not?
Right. Right. That's it. That's a perfect place to wrap up because, and we are seeing
You think maybe better
our
than
voices matter.
Tinkerbell?
Huh?
You think better than Tinkerbell?
Oh, that was great. We're clipping that too. We're still Tinkerbell's going to be the one to use. I'm sorry,
Big fan.
but it's true though. I mean, and I was very fortunate this week. My organization, I work with Vote Vets, was part of the organizers here in St. Louis. We had 500 people show up. We hoped maybe 100, 200. 500 people showed up outside the VA hospital here in St. Louis to say, "Hey, we're not going to let you cut these things. We're gonna show our voices." And we made a bunch of news. There's an even bigger one next week. I mean, we're seeing across the country. I mean, I think our voices. Yeah, April 5th. Thank you. I'm watching Substack comments too, just so you know it. Yeah, April 5th. There's bigger ones. There's more. I mean, we're going to have to get out there peacefully because we don't want to give them an excuse, right? We've got to be peaceful, but we got to get out there.
That goes back to your point about lawfare. That they use lawfare to say, "Oh, you're not allowed to challenge us in court, even if we do things that are illegal." What they're doing, though, by saying, "Guess what, everybody? We've got a new law or new interpretation of law, and the new interpretation of the law means that we take away something from you, whether it's your rights, whether it's your livelihood, whatever it may be." That's not using the law responsibly. I wouldn't even dignify that by calling it lawfare on their end. That's just tyranny.
There you go. I'm going to let you go at that point. Rosa, thank you for joining us live on a Sunday morning. We're going to drag your ass back again. You're my favorite lawyer, so I can't wait to see you again. Thanks, Rosa. We'll see you soon. Cheers. Well, I wish I had fun things. It's tough. I mean, it's true. And you can see that lawfare doesn't even dignify what they're doing. What they're doing is authoritarianism. And there's really no way to get around that. And there's no way to deny that. But I want to welcome all of you. I see a lot of comments on our regular feed. I'm also seeing a ton of comments on Substack. I've got Substack open. Thank you all for joining us. For those who don't realize, this is the first time we've actually live streamed on Democracy Sunday, also on Substack, which is so cool because they gave us that power. So it's wonderful to see so many of my Substack subscribers here too. I hope you'll join us more. This is the Sunday show. It's the best Sunday show on Substack. I say that because I don't know if there are any other Substack Sunday shows, but we'll just keep the low. So for those who are new to the show, because I think we got a lot of new folks, the show, we don't just talk about politics. We also talk to some really cool people. And then my favorite part of the show every week is our panel. And we got another great, fun panel. Because you know what? We can't not laugh at this time. And that's what we're going to do. So no pressure. But let's go ahead. What's that? I'm seeing numbers. So we're going to, let's go to our panel. I think they're all set. They're looking great. So we've got a great panel this week. It continues the tradition of bringing in folks you should know, will already recognize. Let's bring them on in. All right, welcome. All right, so bios. Christine Medrano is a stand-up comic, actress, writer, filmmaker from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Yeah. So she's now, from the other side of the border. So we'll have to, suddenly our enemy. and of course, she's based in LA. Rina Shah, you've seen her before. She's a returning member. She's the very first episode of On Democracy Sunday. Rina joined us for that. So she's a veteran of the show, and we were still making things up. I got a secret, Rina. We're still making it up. But hey, here we are. We're still on the air, and it's working great. Growing our audience. Look at so many people joining us. It's so exciting. Rina, of course, is DC-based political advisor, commentator, social entrepreneur. Currently, I'm not going to go into your bio. Another proud daughter of West Virginia. So we got West Virginia and Canada in the house. But welcome to the show, guys. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me. I see there's a Manitoban in the comments here, Vern.
What is there?
Vern, what are the odds?
Wow, that is really cool. Well, we are a very diverse show. I have the coolest audience, you guys. I have Australians, I have Canadians, and we have people from the UK. Look at that. Vern. Well, Vern's one of our regulars, too. What do you know? So that's great. We love Vern. Vern's here every freaking week, y'all. And we're very fun. So great to join. So, Christine, you're originally from Canada. Has it gotten weird lately? I mean, talk to me.
It has definitely gotten weird. I feel privileged to be able to have an escape plan out of this. If anything happens, I gotta go renew the other passport. Yeah, it's scary. I think on both ends, just kind of like seeing that. Like I don't know, Canada does love America. Like every
Yeah.
Canadian I know, like in my hometown of Winnipeg, we'd go to Fargo for vacation. Like you know what I mean? Like that is the level of love that we have
Wow.
with Americans. You're from Fargo? Wow. Okay, so you probably have gone up to my hometown, Winnipeg, to drink underage. I'm
No, it's just
sure.
people are doing these things.
Yeah.
I'm from Missouri, sister. I got nothing. It's but I completely get it. So now that Canada's our imminent enemy, and of course Rina's in D.C, so she's probably helping gin up. No, Rina, you're in D.C. How goes the war talk there?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you got to find the rooms here that actually lift you and depress you. That's what
Yeah,
I'm doing since, obviously inauguration day. And I think we talk about this all the time, Fred, is like where to find the happy, where are the glimmers of hope. And it's hard to do when you're in the fight all the time. I
yeah.
mean, it's one of those glimmers was definitely meeting Ontario Premier Doug Ford when he came down. That was in February. I'd never met the guy. Obviously, had just seen him. He's got a great set of teeth. I got to be honest. I'm like, those choppers are like really nice. He's a good looking guy. Older gentleman. He married my late dad.
Distinguished is like what you're supposed to say about us. That's what I am.
But
That's my story.
at Trump, they're like, wow, like he's like a strong built dude. And I'm like, well, I don't know, like, okay, sure. But I was really struck by that. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce invited me. I went over. I was like, I want to hear from the Canadians, wanted to hear what was going on. I was blown away, you guys. I had no idea about the facts on really the special relationship that's always talked
Yeah.
how it's interdependent. And Doug Ford was great at this because he's a really affable guy. Affable,
Yeah.
loves people. You can tell. You're like, this guy's in the right line of work. And
Yeah.
over and over, there may be about 150 of us in the room. It was a pro-business community, obviously put together by Chamber of Commerce. A lot of these people were disaffected Republicans. Many of them had probably voted for Trump even. But Doug Ford brought down this delegation of also business people from Ontario. And he just kept saying over and over, I love America. And then the best fact was, he said, with the flip of a switch, we can, from Ontario, I can turn on power all the way down to Florida. That just, when you put it in terms like that, you're like, I get it. Like, we need you guys. You need us. We need you. What the hell are we doing here? Why are we hurting our neighbor for no reason? It's like, not like their dog came over and bit my kid. What the hell?
Canada was sitting there minding their own business. We were like, what?
What the hell is this?
I also had like hearing how much like liquor that Canada buys from America. Like,
Right?
A lot.
I was flabbergasted. I was like, we need to talk to someone. It's a lot. It's
The
like,
shelves were empty. I love when they emptied the shelves. They're like literally empty. It's like, oh shit, I was like, that's a lot of booze,
Yeah, Canadians can be nice, but Canadians can be really like the most passive aggressive people, and I think we're just gonna go full like aggressive. We're just gonna it's gonna go bad. I think like.
But it's great comedy fodder, isn't it? I saw the one reel of the woman like running around like, we have to defend ourselves, and she's running around the house like the brooms and shit. Get the gun. He's like, we don't have guns. What are you talking about? So it's like,
and if we do, they're like too locked up. They're too safe. Like,
yeah, that's right. Can't get to it. They actually have laws there. Go figure.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I know, it's a crazy time to be alive. Yeah, I have distant cousins, if you will, in Canada, and they're like, you're still welcome here, dude. When you have to flee the country. And I got back surgery in December, so I could run across the border just in case. And so now I'm getting in shape again. I'm getting in shape to run across the border. But yeah, it is just a weird time to be anywhere in America. It's a weird time to be in DC. I know, Rena, but I got a second thing I wanted to ask. But your hobby is poker, Christine.
yes, I do love
Okay.
poker. I played for the first time in the World Series last year.
That's not a hobby. Playing in the World Series, you're almost a pro.
I made it to a day 3, which was very exciting for the first time, and I had won my seat there, and I ended up winning another seat to the WSOP in the Bahamas. And I play like these weird online satellites, so I'm gonna actually be going down to Vegas in like next week to play part of the World Series circuit, and then hopefully spend some time in the summer playing there. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like I grew up watching the World Series, and like I went and then I got to play against pros and like outlasted a bunch of people who I like watched
Wow.
on TV, and I was like, this is crazy. It's kind
So
of
yeah, you gotta ask every poker player: is it skill or luck? I mean, that's the question, right? Isn't it? What do you think?
I mean, better to be lucky than be good, but if you can be both,
That's why I'm on the show. Just dumb luck.
You have this funny anecdote about Elon Musk, how his poker playing skills, about how he was at a bachelorette party or something, and he was playing poker, and his way of playing poker was that he would just go all in with every hand he would lose, then rebuy, then go all in until he finally won a hand, and he went, "I'm done." And I'm like, this is the person we have running our government? Oh, God. This is our dark MAGA president? Jesus.
Yeah. So, Rina, have you been fired from anything yet in DC? I don't know if you get fired from, but I'm sure that, you didn't get fired you got fired from the Republicans a while ago, but.
8-9 years ago? They tried.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going. You guys suck. Like, shut up. I mean, like, why are you trying this test for, right? Like, we're with you on a lot of policy things, right?
Yeah.
Fiscal. Okay, we got to be clear. Because if you're under the age of 40 and you are a Republican, chances are, unless you're evangelical, you're pretty socially liberal. I mean, in general. Now, that generality has different pockets. Western Republicans happen to be my favorites. I've spent a lot of time in Utah. I like those people. I think they're very pragmatic, and I think we need pragmatism in DC, right? But it's the heavy dose of it right now is a little much for people. So what's going on right now is people are trying to like suss people out in rooms. Like, hey, so like, what do you think is going on? And like these weird questions. And I'm like, are you like trying to find me out? Like trying to figure out where I'm at? Like last night I was at this gridiron dinner, right? This really super exclusive club. I was not at the dinner. I'm not that cool. I was not invited to dinner. I was invited to the after party. I love me a damn good party friend.
You do. That's why I love having you on. Because Christine, Jesus, this is why I have Rina on. Because Rina's like she goes all the things.
I mean, again, my late dad would be like, "There is never a party you have said no to. Maybe one." Going on. So gridiron, I didn't even know. I'd Google it. I mean, I guess I asked Grok. And anyways, point is, I figured it out with AI that gridiron is a place where women like me don't get to show up. Usually, brown skin, younger women, not really.
What?
But no, formerly males only club, all dedicated to First Amendment stuff, and there were women that look like me in the room. Okay, I'm just gonna give it like Anita Kumar, who I think is at Politico now. Great journalist. Politico had like 30 deep people there. All the majors I saw. WAPO people, ran into Sam Feist of C-SPAN, Olivier Knox of U.S. News and World Report. And I actually held court with them for a while because these were the publications I grew up on. And I really think that's what I was. And I was laughing and telling these guys because, we all know what happened in America yesterday.
Yeah.
Guys, like, it's just so funny to me because if I was in front of Trump right now or any of his minions that are just cutting, I'm like, how is it that a woman like me who grew up on U.S. News World Report, Time, what other magazine we have, Newsweek, listen to NPR every morning, watch PBS every night. How did she go on to become a Republican? Come on. I rest my case.
It's disappointing. I'm still disappointed in you. I don't know why we're still friends.
So that was basically my point. I feel like the rooms were funny, but if you try to talk sense to people, Kellyanne Conway was there last night, Miss Alternative Facts. I thought that was kind of funny. The board that said Freedom Forum. I'm like, this is a woman that believes again in alternative facts. What are we doing here? I've known Kellyanne many years. I think on the inside, like deep inside, she's a good person. She never treated me badly. But I would also say, like, alternative facts, and you're a lawyer. So last night was a little weird, guys. I'll be honest. But again, people are just trying to figure people out in this town. Like everybody's sus right now. Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be like it, and the thing is, so you feel better, Rena. It's not much different here, to be honest. You go out and go to a bar. I don't know, how's LA? I mean, how's LA treating you, Christy? Is it? It's kind of weird out there too, right?
It's kind of of weird out here, but it's definitely, you can kind of figure that, I just kind of assume, I'm like, everyone that I know is like voted for Kamala, is anti-Trump, like, you know what I mean? So I kind of just have that, but there are some times where you're like, wait, who did you vote for? You know, there's a little bit of that, but not a lot of it. I think especially like in the circles that I run in, and it's like, you know, if I go to a casino or something, then I definitely see like a lot of Trump and MAGA people hats.
I was gonna say poker. I mean, the poker world.
Yeah.
I mean, poker's
Very,
pretty
yeah,
manly, alpha male.
absolutely, and that's why they hate to see me coming. I have another friend who's like, she's also like a small woman, and we every time we go there, they're like, I get called little girl. They get so mad when I win, beat them in a pot. It's kind of incredible, honestly. But yeah, very still, like, that is where I probably run into the most amount of people who are going to be like, I think Republicans closest to that I would be interacting with on a daily basis.
I think it'd be good though. It kind of disarms them. You should dye your hair
know.
3 different colors and
I know.
just totally distract them. Where I'm super bi clothes,
Yeah,
you know.
hi.
Hi.
So angle shooting. Yeah.
You were saying, Rena?
Wait here. I'm going to be honest. I'm first time meeting Christine.
Yeah.
Your name around. Definitely want to delve into your comedy, but I just think it's amazing. Like, I think that's like what we have in common. We just keep showing up. Like,
Yeah.
the rooms, the people don't look like you, that may not think like you, whatever. You just keep showing up. You just got to push past. And I feel like that's the biggest lesson of this time. You have to keep showing up because America kind of rests on that idea. It's like, yeah, I may not be anything like what you expected. I am also a fellow little girl, very petite.
I was gonna say, I know you've heard that before.
Like, if I didn't show up, if you didn't show up, we're only, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'd be ridding myself of a great experience. And then it tells people everywhere that, like, we need to keep being in the places where people don't look like us. That's the American experiment. I'm not
Let's bring the panel picks in. Let's do that. So panel picks, Rena's a veteran, Christine's not. It's they're semi-random and you get turns and they may or may not think what you think they do. But we'll since Christine's the newbie, Christine, you get the first pick.
I'm gonna go, I guess, LA versus Canada.
There we go. I mean, it was I kind of said sometimes I make it too obvious. I admit it freely. But how long you been in LA now?
I've been in LA for like more than like 10 years. I have dual citizenship, went to UCLA out here. So I've been in LA for a long time. I do sometimes miss Canada, definitely not the weather. But yeah, I love LA. And a lot of people hate on it, but I do love it.
I like LA too. I used to hate it, and I tell the story all the time. I used to just go in and I just didn't want to be there. And I did a thing with the Home People Foundation, was why I was doing veteran stuff. And I had to do work at the VA, the West LA VA campus, it's just right between West Hollywood and Brentwood, if you know it, right? Mm-hmm. Huge campus that was gifted to veterans 150 years ago. And I was like, the ladies that were there who lived there were like, oh, what are you gonna do? I'll go back to the hospital or the airport and just kill time until I leave. Like, dude. Why? Like, well, LA. And like, what? Like, look, we want you to go out the back gate, get on Ocean Drive and drive till it ends. And then you'll understand. I said, whatever, dude. And then I did it and they were right, because you're not familiar. It goes up through the Hollywood Hill, through all the rich people. And then you end up at the ocean and the road ends at the ocean. And, to the right is the Pacific Coast Highway. To the left is Santa Monica. And I was like, okay, I get it. Now, what about West Virginia versus D.C.? There's a transition for you, Rina.
West Virginia every time, man. The more
what
about it, yeah, I know it's crazy, but I just love the mountains. I love just the feeling that, like, I love less people.
It's a beautiful state.
When there's people in a space, you start to see the worst of humanity kind of come out. I kind of like the older. I don't know. I just like space and something about West Virginia. I mean, our state motto is mountaineers are always free. And I just feel like it's a special place. It was an awesome place to grow up. It gets a bad rap, but the people there in general are just good. The mountains are gorgeous out there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful state. I always stop at the national parks on the way, and I just love it so much. So, all right, next, bring it back up, JJ. All right, you're up, Sister Rina. I know one we talked about already.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Is She a Man?
Just suggested. They're obsessed, Rena. Was Charlie Kirk today, something like that, saying that Mrs. Macron is a what man? I mean, what the hell, dude?
Day I open up that app X or wherever I'm reading far right stuff, right? They're like, they just are obsessed with who's a man. Like, Michelle Obama and her brother have launched this podcast. They keep calling her Mike, and then they keep saying dude looks like a lady, and or lady looks like a dude. I don't know what the way
It's just such a weird obsession.
obsession with I mean, obviously we know the far right is so anti-trans, right? So they've got a thing about people who really identify as transgender. And I get that. That's uncomfortable for a lot of people. They don't find that right. It's not biologically okay for them. That's a
Right.
This isn't like a social phenomenon. Like Tucker Carlson was saying, my friend Candace Owens is so incredible. She died on the hill of like Bridget Macron is a man, and she turned out to be right. I'm like, why is this shit in my feed? Like, first of all, I don't like Tucker Carlson. Why are you guys hyper fixated on femininity, right? Like the fact that these people don't have your ultra feminine features, it's all just super bizarre to me. And then, last White House Correspondents' Dinner, I ran into, I don't want, Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce. And,
Okay.
And I was just like staring at her and I'm like, wow, she's so pretty. Like these people in the MAGA universe, I even ran into a friend recently who looks great after, like, I think a many pound weight loss. Okay. She's flying down to a South American country to get her whole body tuned up. I'm like, you're beautiful. What are we doing? And I think it's because they all want to be these like Laura Trumps or like the Trump dolls.
The Trump doll. Well, you live in LA. I mean, the funny thing about this too is having somebody from LA, Christine, is that used to be where everybody's like, oh, everybody's got plastic surgeon, they're fixed up, and everybody's fake in LA. But no, fuck that. Now it's Mar-a-Lago.
There
Right?
is more gender-affirming plastic surgery at Mar-a-Lago than anywhere else.
Yes.
It's like they're obsessed with it. They do more steroids, probably. They do more. They take hormone. Like, are you telling me that Joe Rogan's not like mainlining testosterone? Like, I mean, these people love gender-affirming care, but just for themselves, And so it's
Right.
so ironic that they're so upset. The obsession with trans people is, particularly trans women, is so strange to me. Also, the idea that it's weird that they have such a hyperfixation on trans women, but they don't even consider like trans men at all.
Right. They're talking about that.
Going into the bathrooms, like, oh, go to the bathrooms that you're assigned a sex of birth. But it's like, what about the trans men who would be going into the women's bathroom? You're comfortable with that? So there's this weird double standard. And also, I think that a lot of women on like Republican women and MAGA women, their makeup makes them look more trans than actual trans
Drag
women.
queens. I mean, I've seen drag queens. I have seen drag queens wear less makeup than a gala at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, that's not even, it's not an original joke. It's just kind of, it's not even a joke. It's a fucking statement of fact. It's just bizarre, Hell, Trump does. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, good Christ.
He's wearing a lot more than I've saw him wear in the past. I mean, but they all need to learn how to blend. I mean, look.
Yes, the neck, the little eye circle things he has. It's so weird.
Yeah. We had Lysandra on one of the comedians, Lysandra, a couple weeks ago, and that's her whole bid is she'll do the makeup tutorial on how to do the MAGA. Yeah, you got to catch it. Lysandra V comedy, I think, is her. Yeah, she does the whole. Like the TikToks. I'm doing my makeup. She does the Mar-a-Lago look. It's definitely worth checking out. Great guest. All right, panel picks. Bring it back, JJ. We've never gotten all four ever. All right, Christine, you're up.
The seasons. Just
yes.
Let's go.
This is my weather one because no shit, you guys. When we were getting ready, the lights flickered here because we had turned it. Now look, I hiked the other day here in St. Louis, Missouri. It was 78 degrees or 81 degrees. I got up today. It was effing snowing. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm serious. It's just like, I don't know if we have seasons anymore. Do they have? And you got, of course, fire season and not fire season now in LA, don't you, Christine? Hey, did you fare on the fire? How'd you do in the fires?
The fires were. I mean, it was crazy. I have a few friends whose their houses burned down. I evacuated for a bit because of the smoke, and like I'm still worried about air quality. Um, but yeah, like even like looking at pictures of my hometown in like November, it's like it used to be like covered in snow, like just kind of like
Right.
Vern can attest to this, that there's just like less and less snow, and it's kind of scary. I don't know. It's just very
No,
terrifying.
it is. I mean, look, it's St. Louis this year. We had more snow in St. Louis than Minneapolis. Okay, I want you to think about that. Yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, we're as freaked out by it as you are. I mean, DC has always been a swamp, but I can't. It's been impressive in the summer there, hasn't it,
It's very weird.
Rena?
I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
not to think that it's climate change, right? Like climate change, okay, for what reason? Like I tend to think it's more man-made. I mean, I look at all our trash and I'm extremely weird and conscientious. Like I've turned into a full hippie since having kids. Like I compost now. Never thought I'd be that person. But I'm also like, where is all the trash going? And all this plastic we use has got to be like, I just think, look, I did chemical engineering a long time ago and I flunked out and it was terrible. And so I clearly am not able to make a great argument as to how the chemicals are impacting our weather. But all I got to say is we all got to be concerned that nature is not healing. Like,
No,
it's
No.
not a good thing.
no. No, it's a mess. And there's just no denial. Like you said, like last year we had barely any snow here. It's the change is so real. I mean, I grew up, you guys, and oh my God, I'm gonna date myself. I do this every freaking week. Sorry, JJ's old too. You don't see him, but he's old too. But having said that, yeah, don't you know you were old, JJ? I see you. All right, having said that, I'm still the oldest guy on the show. I played hockey in 1970s here in St. Louis, and we had an outdoor skating rink in Kirkwood, Missouri, where I grew up, and I played hockey in like minus 10-degree weather. I mean, it was you couldn't run an outdoor skating rink in St. Louis today. It would fail. We do not have enough consecutive freezing. There's actually a little ski slope near us, and they almost went out of business last year. They never had enough consecutive freezing days to maintain even fake snow. It's like, yeah, shit's changing, y'all. Shit is changing. You'd be like delusional thinking. All right, one last check, man. We got time. This is great. You're not way younger than me, JJ. We all know you're lying. All right, go, JJ. Bring it back up. Stop defending yourself. All right, the last one: politics versus comedy. Rena, over to you. I mean, which is more fun? Which is worse these days?
Look, I hate cancel culture. I think comedy is superior to politics because you got to laugh about this shit. I laugh about it. I feel like I've been laughing this whole damn show because I think I'm so sad on the inside about it. Be clear what I'm sad about. I'm sad that a lot of people are scared right now or are hurt because the whole reason I went into government and politics is because Fred knows this. I'm in a family of doctors. Both my siblings, my late dad, my husband, everybody seems to be like they love healthcare. They all chose healthcare. I hate blood. I also I need blood. But so I went in. I always believed that government was a tool for good. But because of my family's experience in Uganda, getting kicked out by the murderous dictator Idi Amin, I just always knew that a limited government was better, but always believed that government and politics could do good in people's lives. Not this whole form of like, I mean, people are really hurting, not just in the DC area, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
people worried about our fundamental rights that we have, all of us are acquainted with since we were kids. So I feel like in general, politics sucks right now. So I love comedy. Watch a lot of specials. I grew up watching that Margaret show. Is that her name? I liked her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's great.
Yeah, I liked her.
Yeah.
A lot. I like crass, even though I don't think I'm a crass person. I curse in our group chats like crazy.
Yes, she does. She does. Don't be fooled. We'll publish it someday. It's on Signal. What about you? I mean, Christine, you're trying to maintain yourself out there. I mean, it's an interesting time. It's interesting time in the comedy world.
It's interesting time in the comedy world just because so much of it's intersecting into politics. I think I
Yes.
have more people from the Comedy Store who are at Trump's inauguration than ever before, having, just kind of like podcasters who comedians and podcasters become like kind of like far right, like sounding boards. It's kind of interesting to see, you know what I mean? To know that
Yeah.
kind of like there is such a large place in politics now for just comedians. It's kind of it's good, but I'm also a little scared. I'm like, why is Theo Vaughn at the inauguration? Why is he
Right?
there?
I mean,
Why?
it's
Why
just
are like so many
weird.
people that like Death Squad kind of like Death Squad is like a comedy group, kind of like a faction of like maybe Joe Rogan and his guys
Yeah.
at the White House. It's very strange to see, and also
Yeah.
you kind of see a lot more comedians who are kind of like pandering to that kind of right alt-right scene, so that's also
Yeah.
interesting to see. I don't think I've ever seen it before. There's just such a switch in comedy that we are seeing because of politics. It's very strange, but
Wow. Very interesting.
yeah,
Very good.
very
Well, keep
interesting.
fighting a good fight. Well,
Thanks.
I think we're there. All right. So this is the most important portion of the program. This is where you get to plug your shit. So, Christine, where can we find you?
Um,
Where can people catch up with you?
you can find me on Instagram. I was banned from Twitter a long time ago on
Love
January
it.
6th, 2020. So find me on Instagram. Yeah, Chrissy Meds. Yeah.
Rena, how about you?
I'm just trying to stay alive right now. I got myself to keep alive. I don't know. I don't even know how much longer I'm going to live in DC. So probably need a new handle. I've had that one for like 20 years.
I was gonna say.
Follow me anywhere. I'm down. Instagram. I love Insta stories. So hook up with
Yes, that's true. She does. You can see all of her parties and her glam. She's the glamorous one of our group chat. I'm just trying to stay alive. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today. I had a blast hanging out with you. This is the whole point of this panel, and you guys are great. So, all right, well, we'll see you soon. Good luck out there in LA. Stay safe, and Rena, God bless you. Stay in DC. See you guys later. Man, I love the panel. For those who are new, again, that's the middle part of our show. Blocks 2 was it? JJ, we're gonna talk TV talk. Is it blocks 3 and 4? I don't know, but it's so great to see so many. We got a great group growing here on Substack for the first time. So many great, cool followers on Substack. It's just thrilling. So now I'm really excited. This is a cool opportunity. I'm sure you've heard the name Howard Dean. Of course, Howard ran for president. He was Vermont governor. He's a physician, author, consultant, retired politician. As I mentioned, 79th governor of Vermont from 1991 to 2003, chaired the Democratic National Committee. You ran for president, which ended a little early, but still a brilliant commentator on what's happening in the Democratic Party today. And after this debacle with the continuing resolution, I really wanted to get him on the show. So I'm thrilled to get the opportunity to talk with Howard Dean. Let's welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show. This is Dean. It's a pleasure to. I get fangirlish sometime on the show, and all of our followers give me shit about it. But it's great to talk to you. Welcome to On Democracy Sunday.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, interesting time. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's on Friday they passed the CR. I find myself still baffled by what just happened in the Senate. I mean, you too probably.
Well, I'm not that baffled. I mean, I know the players.
Yeah.
Schumer is a great tactician, and he's been a great leader in the Senate, but he has no conception of what it's going to take to get the Democratic Party. His life is day to day in the Senate, and he's been effective. But in this case, I always say that Washington is basically middle school on steroids. They're hardworking, they're really smart, and it's all about them all the time. So his sort of field of vision is very constrained, and that's mainly the main problem with the Democratic Party. It's a Washington-centric party. We just haven't gotten out and done the work in the grassroots for a long time.
Yeah, and I live out there. We were talking in the pre-show. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I can say that I led a protest. We had 500 people show up outside the VA hospital here in St. Louis, and it's about the cuts to the VA, but it was just anger. I mean, they're average Americans who lived here in Illinois and Missouri. They're very angry right now. It just feels like the Democrats in the Senate, especially in Congress, they really seem to be missing the boat. The level of angst and worry and seriously flat out anger out here. There's a disconnect. I can't get over it.
There's a tremendous disconnect, and it's much worse on the Democratic side than it is on the Republican side. The Republicans because they have so much money because they are backed by all the gazillionaires in the country. This is definitely not in the interest of the people who are voting for Republicans, but you can't tell them that. But they have so much money, for about 20. If you go back to Gore versus Bush, where the court elected Bush president on a 5-4 partisan majority, that was but that was the culmination. Now, I actually think Bush would have won anyway had they stuck to the constitutional course. which we won't go into. But basically, there's a process for electing a president when the electoral votes aren't clear. And they stole the election, is what they did. And Bush would have been president anyway, I suspect. But now look at it. And now you've got a Supreme Court that doesn't represent anybody except the right wing of the Republican Party. Two of them are apparently on the take in some way. Yeah. And you've got a guy, an unelected guy running the government, telling who can work and who can't. This is nuts. And they don't give a damn about the United States of America. They only care about themselves. And it's a real problem. But the problem with the Democrats is, here's what we have to do to win. And it's what the Republicans did do 20 years ago, which was smart. If you are only a Washington party, which is essentially what we are and what we've trained our donors to be, then you're the label of the Democratic Party is what the Republicans say it is. It's their message, and they're very good at messaging. Unpatriotic, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Okay. We need to be at the doors of every person. And I do not mean knocking on doors 5 weeks before the presidential election or the congressional election. I mean every second. And the way you do that is actually, you're from Missouri. Okay. There was a guy in Missouri around Columbia someplace, and the Missouri School of Journalism, which is a very good journalism school at the University of Missouri in Columbia, wrote about this. Some young guy wanted to run for the legislature. Missouri's a pretty red state. And he knocked on doors and got his butt kicked. And then 2 years later or whatever, he did it again. And 3 years. And the next time around, he won because his opponent got himself in some trouble and people were sick of it. Now the brand of the Democratic Party in his district is this kid who grew up with us, went to school with us, who we taught, and is now one of us. He's
Stephen Weber. He's a dear friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine. He's a former Marine. He's a former Marine, and he doesn't know the word quit. That's exactly it, sir.
But this is crazy. This is what we do is insane. You come in, and the big donors are part of the problem. We schmooze them. Oh, I told Senator so-and-so the other day. Well, I spoke to the president. Well, that's great. It doesn't get you elected, and that's why we are where we are. And until we change that, it's not going to get better. And I don't care how many people go to Washington and give big, long speeches. It's not going to happen.
I love it. And, I feel like they just taught the Republicans an important lesson too, right? They no longer had to be afraid of the Senate. I mean, I saw a post, like somebody somebody told a reporter, the Republican told a reporter, but now we get it. If we can get it past the House, because even the House was briefly scared. They used to be scared of the Senate. They didn't want to pass stuff that would fail in the Senate. We just taught them, if they can keep that crazy caucus of theirs together, don't worry, Senate Dems will collapse. I mean, they did. And they did. They did.
And I don't understand it fully. I understand what Schumer was probably doing. As I say, he's a tactician. He's not a party leader at the national level, and he's a smart tactician. Some of the other people I don't get. Brian Schatz is a liberal from Hawaii. I don't understand what his vote was. And so, this is complicated. I know most of the people who did. Jean Shaheen is another person.
I know Senator Shaheen well, and her daughter's a dear friend. Yeah.
And I think Peters is leaving too.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that. So, I mean, these people had nothing to lose. I just don't get it at all. And AOC was correct. It's a kick in the shorts to the people who risk their campaigns in the House to say no to Trump. People want somebody to stand up to Trump. The reason Trump got elected is he seemed to be strong and we seem to be weak. Well, we're just reinforcing the stereotype, doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And why are they so afraid of wielding power? I mean, I see this again and again, sir. Even and Mr. Biden. Let's be honest. Biden did this. First 2 years of his freaking he was in office. He's like, well, I want bipartisan. This is a bipartisan bill. The Republican. Have you ever heard the word bipartisan from a fucking Republican? I mean, they don't care, And we're bending ourselves and twisting.
Biden, didn't do so well at the end, and he probably didn't run. But the truth is, when we look back on this 20 years for you, I won't be around 20 years from now.
I hope I am, Jesus.
Look back at Biden is probably the most effective president for working people that we've seen.
Yes.
Probably since Harry Truman or Johnson, ex the Vietnam War, which he lied about. But what he did for ordinary people was extraordinary. And Biden created thousands of jobs, almost all in red states, by putting factories and chip factories there. All the Republican congressmen used to go to the ribbon clipping, even though they voted against it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, Dalton, Georgia.
Get rid of the whatever it is act, the CHIPS Act. all the Republicans will say, yes, sir, but don't do it because it's all in our district. I mean,
but I think what I mean, what I do mean is
grassroots.
Using that bat, though, I mean, really codifying things. Like, again, we had the power to shut this down, right? And negotiate. They had the power to say, look, you got to negotiate. You want us to support? Great. You say you have the power, do it, but you don't. You got to negotiate with us. And it just feels like a lot of times they're, especially in the Senate, they're afraid to just wield naked power. Say, no, we're going to do what we do, and I think it frustrates a lot of us. You're right, because the Republicans have that down.
The problem with the argument that was raised was where they're going to lay waste to the federal government if we don't pass it.
They are now.
They're going to lay waste to the federal government anyway. All they want to do
right now. Yeah. It's like
the whole thing is ridiculous. It's a terrible mistake. And I don't know what the internal calculus was. Maybe he was just trying to protect some of his members from I don't know what the deal was because it's not obvious to me. But no. I do know that it was an inside the Beltway maneuver, and it harms the Democratic Party nationally, and we can't afford to be harmed anymore. We're really on the verge of losing our country, and I don't like to exaggerate this.
No.
I figured we were going to get through the 4 years somehow. This is really a serious problem, and we'll see what happens when the Supreme Court rules on all these motions that you can't fire people without process and all this kind of stuff.
But yeah, it's that we feel that way. And again, those of us who are out here, those of us the rank and file, definitely feel that way. They see their friends. I mean, I'm a veteran, so the funny thing we keep dragging Secretary Collins, Doug Collins is the head of the VA, and the veterans talk to each other. So I probably know if he farts in his office before his secretary does. I mean, seriously, veterans talk, and the stuff, and they're terrified. VA employees are scared for their lives every day. They're terrified that they've been told they're going to get fired. 83,000 are getting fired, but they don't know which ones yet. So now everybody's afraid for their job. Nobody wants to take a job there because you could lose it in 3 months. What's the point of even applying for a job? Right. So they're hurting a lot of people. But in D.C., you're right. We've got Schumer and these guys doing this nuanced Senate thing. And one of the things I've been hanging on the show, sir, is nuance is dead, right? It's a time, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's nuance. The Republicans are masters of not black and white, and we keep trying to find gray, and the average American's out here looking at their bank accounts, looking at their future, and they're scared. It's just, whereas you got, like you said, Chuck Schumer is doing this inside the Beltway rules and rules the Senate shit. And it's like, what do you think? I mean, we live in a black and white world, and it feels like the party just doesn't get that yet.
I think the internal party inside the Beltway hasn't gotten it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a game for them. It's middle school on steroids, and the House is closer to it. I've actually adopted some used to be conservative views. I think we ought to have term limits in the United States Senate. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we need term limits on the Supreme Court. These people are there for too damn long. And they're, my own senator was a fantastic senator. He was there for 48 years. And I think he was about the 4th biggest industry in the state of Vermont. So I make an exception for that. For a small state, we really benefited by having him there. But by and large, the country would be much better off if you could only serve 2 or 3 terms. 18 years is enough.
Yeah.
And what happens is you totally lose touch. All you want to do is be reelected. You have name recognition, you have a ton of money, and you get reelected. That does not help when you have to make decisions like the decision that was made on Saturday or Friday.
And it feels like it should be the opposite, right? It should be where it doesn't matter that you're because they have the money, they're not going to get they won't be getting they'll get elected is what I'm saying. They'll get reelected no matter what. So you would think it would be the opposite. They'd be more willing to wield the power because no matter what they do, they're getting reelected. I mean, let's face it, Schumer's in no danger of not being elected.
Right. And none of the, as far as I know, most of the other people aren't either. I just don't get it at all. I just don't get it. I mean, other than I know they're all incredibly out of touch because they have 6-year terms. And I think the 6-year term is a good idea, and the 2-year term in the House is a good idea. But I think we got to have term limits. We cannot look in our state. We have 2-year term limits, including for the governor. I think it's a great idea. Everybody hates it. The public doesn't like it.
Yeah, we have it in Missouri too.
They hate all the advertising. If you want to live in a democracy, you got to put something in the pot, and the least you can put in the pot is that you're going to vote every 2 years. And the other thing is, this should not be a full-time job. The framers of the Constitution never intended Congress. They intended people to go off their farms, work in Congress for a while, come back, and then be a normal person again.
Yep.
We have totally lost that. And the professional political class is a disaster. And that's true on the Republican side too. In fact, it's worse for the Republicans because they have lost their mind. They have one collective mind, and it happens to be at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and none of the other ones are worth a damn.
And this is where really make people mad too. I think that's for the consultant class too, sir. To be honest with you, I think our consultant class, the consultant classes are a disaster.
Pontificating in Washington, whose best year was 1992, and they're still gas-bagging about how to win elections. Give me a
We should roll over. The fuck we're rolling over. It's like it's shocking, isn't it? You spoke. It's funny. You and I got connected by a mutual friend who watched your DNC winter speech from 2003, right? And you said 23 years ago, you said, Jesus, sir, the way the Democrats need to attract young voters and disenchanted voters is to stand for something. And you and I get out, and I'm getting ready for this interview like, Jesus, nothing's changed. We did lose some young. We lost a lot of young voters on this last election because that was. I joke. So I have my own focus group. I have a 27-year-old daughter and a 28-year-old daughter, and they're classic Gen Zers, and they're scared shitless. And the messages they send me, they just don't see anybody fighting for them at all or standing for something that they believe in. So nothing's changed, has it? No. Well, yeah. There are some wonderful voices. Yeah.
AOC was quite to my left when she started out. she's still probably to my left, but at least she has the courage to speak up and say what she believes. You cannot get voters under 30 unless you say what you believe. They are so disgusted with politics. They don't like politics. They don't like the nuances. They don't understand the nuances because they're not old enough to understand the nuances. You're not going to win elections if you focus on nuance. And there's one thing about Trump. He may lie his face off, but there's nothing nuanced about him. And people like that.
Yeah, because we live in that kind of a world. We live in 3-minute soundbite world where it's got to be clear. And did you see the Washington Post story of the young woman who worked for the Forest Service, and she wasn't sure who to vote for, but she's trying to have kids, and she uses IVF, and she heard that Trump promised free IVF, and she saw a TikTok that said Trump was going to give free IVF, and that was her final decision to ex-Trump over Harris. And I remember I've been telling every politician I've talked to ever since, sir, don't you get it that your hour-long press conference, your podcast where you really go head-to-head with somebody, nobody's freaking hearing that.
Which is amazing to me is that the Republicans have become much better on the internet. We can't use the reporters in Washington as our conduit because they're not interested in being a conduit. What they want is clicks for themselves or kudos from the editors. And I wouldn't read. I don't read anything by the Washington Post anymore since it's run by a gazillionaire who's sucking up to Trump. But the Times, not a bad paper, but there's a game going on. Can I get my article on the front page? What do I have to do? I was once when I was running for president in Iowa it was Des Moines, and I was overhearing a conversation of a couple. Everybody hangs around the Hotel Fort Des Moines, which is smoke-filled dump with brown chairs and brown rugs, and that's where everybody hangs out.
Hasn't changed.
And so I hear these two reporters, and one of us turns to the other and says, "I got him to say such and such," and I'm thinking to myself, "What? That's not the news. That you getting somebody to say something, and that puts you on the front page. That has no relevance to what is going on and what people need to know." And so the mass media is a problem. In some ways, the Republicans have figured out that going on shows like this is a whole lot smarter than bothering with what's going on in the Washington Post or the New York Times or CBS or any of those damn shows, or MSNBC for that, or Fox. Although Fox is incredibly, they make no pretense about being neutral, and they're basically a propaganda organization.
And that's what works for them, though. And we've been talking this a lot.
Yeah, they feed a narrative to their people, and it may be totally false, but it's effective.
But you nailed it right there. We've had some great guests. Greg Landsman in Ohio. That's what he says. He's like, look, I went on every show. I did every small radio show in my district. I did every podcast. I don't care. I've never, he was famous. He's great. He said, I'll never ask how many viewers you have because it doesn't matter. Because even if it's 1,000, that's 1,000 people I reach that I wouldn't have otherwise.
That's right.
And I think that's probably my biggest frustration, and we'll let you go, is with us. We're a small, operation. I'm not big. Also, on Midas Touch was not as small. But I tell you what, trying to get through the staffers, trying to get to, how big do you find? Like, no, you need to reach. I reach a unique audience. Our audience tends to run older. Our audience tends to be engaged. Our audience definitely gives money. So it's like, anyway, I need to let you go. I know you're busy, man, and I grabbed you early, so thank you so much, sir. Any last word I forgot to touch on?
Thanks for having me.
Oh man,
Don't give up the fight. But if you do give up the fight, you're not going to have much to fight over by the time this time in 2 years, because we're not going to be a democracy. We used to say that in the campaign. Nobody used to believe it. I think a lot more people believe it now when they see King Elon running the country and firing everybody without any hearings.
Yep.
And there's an awful lot of veterans that are going to lose their jobs, and they already are.
They already are. And it's and the healthcare. So thank you so much. Great talking to you, sir. We look forward to talking to you. You're stuck now. We're dragging your ass back again.
All right.
Thanks. What a great I really enjoyed that conversation. I love the fact that he tells it like it is. He shoots straight, and we're going to have a lot more of that. I think, that we have to have some very hard conversations with those who represent us and those who represent us in Washington, and had these discussions. So look, I'll highlight. I'm happy to take a few questions if you got any. JJ's looking at them, especially on Substack. I want to welcome Substack again. It's so great to see 350 of you from Substack. I hope we can get more of you. We'll send emails again next time. This is an important conversation, and something we said during the show, if you heard it a couple of times during the show, was people really are angry, and we need them to understand that in DC, that this isn't just a fake thing. That the demonstration I went to yesterday, I saw 500 people show up. And it was funny, I posted about it on Twitter, which is where we run live on Twitter as well, or X. And it was funny how many of these MAGA guys like, oh, a lot of paid protesters. Was it $40 an hour? Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Those were just average people who came from far out in Missouri, came from Illinois. They were organized. There was union members. There was people on a Friday afternoon at lunch hour. They came down, and it was a positive demonstration to show support for the VA employees they're threatening of firing. We had VA employees coming out to thank us. We had a social worker almost broke into tears. So don't buy their bullshit, okay? They know it's not paid protesters. They know there is real anger, and they need to understand that we're not sitting idly by. So we are really, really, really not going to play games anymore with this silliness. So we're going to keep on talking. I really appreciate you guys. And JJ, anything you want to talk about? Or I see Vern asked about VA personnel. Great question. So obviously they've talked about firing 83,000 VA employees. I got a tip from one of my friends who works at VA that that's not a true number. The union, the AFGE, is saying they've actually heard 120,000 employees. 25% is what the union's hearing. That's terrifying. And you'll see some pushback from these idiots on the MAGA side saying, oh, it's because it's all the bureaucracy was built. No, it's because we added 1.5 million veterans to the rolls since Biden passed the PACT Act. Okay, we actually had a veteran come out of the hospital, start screaming at my demonstrators, saying that they were a bunch of libtards. You never served. Like, sorry, dude, I did 20 years in the Army. And he got up in my face and said, "What the fuck? What did Biden ever do for us, dude? The people you're going to see were hired because of Biden. The PACT Act was the largest expansion of veterans' health care since Vietnam." And the Republican Continuing Resolution just zeroed out the Toxic War Exposure Fund, the Toxic War Exposure Fund that was $22 billion. They zeroed it out. That's what Republicans did for veterans. They zeroed out the money to support people with cancer, Agent Orange exposure, and others. So spare me the bullshit that Biden didn't do anything for veterans, because I'm not fucking here for it, okay? So we are going to keep fighting that fight. We are holding account. We work with Vote Vets, Nick. Vote Vets is all over this. Okay, while they're saying it won't be healthcare workers. I just don't see how you can fire 83,000 to 120,000 people and not make it people. Another lie that came out this week was them saying they'd opened 4 clinics. So all those fake news and politicians saying they weren't doing it. Those clinics broke ground in 2022 under Biden. Okay, they're not. They just opened in the last month, and all 4 of the new VA clinics, including Fredericksburg, Virginia, opened understaffed because of the hiring freeze that Doug Collins instituted. They opened up, like the one in Fredericksburg doesn't have an operating pharmacy yet because they haven't installed the necessary electronic equipment because Doug froze the fucking contracts. So don't let VA bullshit us. You can no longer trust government spokesmen in this government. They're lying. Okay. And they're lying when they say those clinics are operating. They're not. So we'll keep our hands on them. VoteVets is all over. I'm real proud to work with them. So is, we don't play over there, and we're not playing anymore. Anything else, JJ? I missed. Okay, here we go. Question is, are you guys going to go set? I don't know. JJ, are we? I got to turn on JJ's mic. I can't hear him. I don't know if that's beyond my capability. I think JJ would be the guy to make that decision. JJ, what do you think? Yes. Yeah. Okay, we'll check it out. Why not, Vern? We'll check it out. We're expanding. We're thrilled to be on Substack now. I mean, it's so cool. We got 355 people live right now on Substack. I hope we get a lot more. I hope you're subscribing to our Substack. I'm doing breaking news updates on Substack. I'm just flipping on my camera. Now that I can do these live streams right from my studio, we're just flipping the camera on and talking about breaking news and all kinds of stuff. So if you're not a subscriber, it's totally free, you guys. It's 100% free. I swear to God. I only ask for paid subscribers if you feel like it, to help pay for me and JJ and Katie's time. But otherwise, my Substack is completely free. We just love having you there and have these conversations. Again, I'd love to have more. I'd love to have paid subscribers, but every post, every video is free for subscribers. It is a free Substack with no paywall, but an amazing, like over 300 people, I guess, pay. And I super appreciate that because that's how we're able to do this job. With that, I guess we should kind of get going. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're right at that time limit anyways. Hey, Norma, thanks. It's good seeing you. So cool to see you in St. Louis. I really appreciate you. That's amazing. That was a cool day, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a really cool day out there. Okay, what's the question? I'm sorry. How is it that the JCVA Hospital St. Louis is still buying its side assets from the city? By saying all the, yeah, that's a great question. Yes, well, yeah, that's a good question. There's so much going on that doesn't make sense. You're getting to a norm. You're getting to a very good point. None of this makes sense. It's a lie. Okay, the idea that any of this is about efficiency, the idea that any of this is about saving money, it's not. What they're going to do is what they've been doing to the private schools for 20 years. The VA is the canary in the coal mine, I think, for a lot of what's happening. We'll put the Substack up on screen. What's a lot of what's happening in the VA is a perfect example of what they've been doing. What they're going to do is they're going to say it's not efficient. They're going to smear the VA. You saw Doug Collins saying, it's the butt of jokes for years. And that's not true. Okay. Sure. It's not perfect, but there's 81% satisfaction rate of VA patients. That's surveys that have done just last year of actual VA patients. 81% are satisfied. It's not perfect, but no healthcare is perfect. Good luck seeing what the numbers are for United. Okay, good luck you see for any of the others. Okay, but the bottom line is people who like VA. So they're going to smear VA first, say it doesn't work, and then they're going to cut 15% of the workforce down to pre-PACT Act levels. So we've added 1.5 million veterans to the rolls. 750,000 veterans have gotten cancer screenings for free. They're going to cut the personnel that were added. Over 70,000 people have been added to help those veterans. They're going to cut that back to pre-PACT Act levels. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to fail. Okay? So when it starts failing, they're going to say, look, we tried to save it, but it's unsavable. We're going to have to privatize it. So we're gonna just turn it into insurance and give these veterans. So that's why when Doug Collins says we're not cutting benefits, we're not cutting health care, what he means is they're going to still write checks and they're still going to make it. They're going to make it an insurance company, because the dream of the far right and the dream of the Koch brothers is to privatize VA and give 10 million veterans health care to private insurance companies. Okay? Which won't be enough money. They won't. And it's just gonna be like my military retirement, my free health care from the military. There's gonna be, it's free if you want the bronze, it's free. Because we promise you free health care. We'll give you bronze health care. But if you really want better, you could pay a little extra for silver healthcare. But, if you really want the best, you can get gold healthcare, and that's going to cost you $250 a month. But don't worry, you can still get free healthcare. That's the fucking game. That's the plan. They're doing it right in front of our faces. There's nothing about efficiency whatsoever. They want to privatize the United States government, specifically the VA. They really want the VA. They've always wanted the VA. Koch brothers have been working for 20 years to privatize the VA. That's where this is. So if you wonder where it's going, That's where it's going. Okay. So I got riled up because it pisses me off. But that's the goal. That's the goal of this government. That's all they're doing. Efficiency is horseshit. They're destroying the government. They're going to privatize what they can, and what they can't, they're just going to get rid of. That's it. The VA is so necessary because veterans go there for specific health care. They've already cut the funding for specific funding for studies on the very unique things that we go. Look, man, I'll tell you what's kind of unique. Oh, veterans, what's the deal? What's the special about health care? I don't know. When I was based at Q West Air Base in 2004, the sulfur mine up the hill caught fire. And for a week, we had to wear gas masks every day because of sulfur smoke overwhelming our base. I don't know. It seems fucking unhealthy to breathe sulfur for a week. I don't know how my local hospital is going to handle that. But you know what? The doctors at VA get it. They know about that. They understand that since I flew scout helicopters, which weren't designed for human bodies, that my back's fucked up because of it. That's why people like going to the VA. And they fund a ton of medical research, as you mentioned, just a ton of medical research. Doctors, did you know something like 40% of U.S. doctors actually trained at the VA? It's a huge training ground for the best doctors and nurses in the country. And they want to destroy all that and throw us off to a system that can't handle us. We've had 13 rural hospitals close in Missouri in the last 6 years. What's going to happen when veterans who live out in the country, 1 in 4 veterans live in rural areas, where the hell are they going to get health care from? There's no hospital. I'm ranting. JJ's let me go too. JJ's in my ear and he's letting me go. So, hey guys, but honestly, guys, that's the game they're playing. Okay, that's the game. If you can join us, keep joining us. I'd love to see more people. FPWellman.substack.com. It's free. I saw somebody ask, it's a very usable platform. It's very easy to, just an email. The app is great. If you're not using the app, you can get notifications in the app and they'll tell you they're adding more stuff to it. I like Substack. I've got a lot of great friends on there. If you want to get news, there's a lot of people writing news on there. So that's my plug for that. As always, you can find us on, there's another person who got their Train for Residency Fellowship at VA. So, you can find us, as always, on our YouTube channel, On Democracy channel. You can find us on Blue Sky. We love Blue Sky. On Democracy channel has a Blue Sky. I'm at FPWellman everywhere. And, of course, JJ, the producer, is Bear Sox. He can explain that separately. Something about Chicago sports. I don't know what it is. But anyway, we love seeing you here. Again, we'll have breaking news during the week. We'll have special episodes. We're now going to start posting every week's episode of On Democracy, FPWellman that goes to Midas Touch. We'll also be on Substack. All these things are happening right here in the On Democracy world media. Our media empire is growing. I'm so pleased to have you with. Thank you to JJ, producer Katie. Thank you for all of you for joining us. We will see you at this place next week, same time.